Well, hi, I'm John Hart, and welcome back to Mr. America Hart. Today, I'm giving you my 5 barbell exercise routine that's going to go ahead and give you great muscle growth. I'm sharing it with you because it's something that I've used off and on throughout the years. Generally speaking, I've done cycles of different types of training and experimented for you guys. As you know, if you've watched any of my 300 plus videos at this point, you know I've done all kinds of experimentation with my training, my diet, and I've shared it with you from an honest perspective. And in this case, I'm going to give you the bottom line, okay? When it comes to having simply a barbell, plates, I do have a squat rack, a power cage, power rack. You should have one of those, okay? If that's all I have, and sometimes that's all I use, then I'm going to take a big hit workout and I'm going to do this routine once every 5 or 6 days. I'm only going to do 1 working set of each exercise in this routine. Now follow me before you all start getting on me about whatever you think about each one of those exercises. Let me just get through this. Follow me. All right, so we have our barbell set up for our squats. And I'm also going to set up a barbell for bench presses. Okay, so you see what I'm doing here. I'm going to go from my squats to my bench presses warming up. I'm just going to go back and forth with a few sets. Light, I mean really light to moderate sets. And I mean sets just so we're not having a semantics game here. Okay, for all of you who say, you're talking about doing 5 sets or 4 sets of squats, 4 sets of bench presses. No, I'm not. For any of you who have watched any of my videos, you know that I warm up like a power lifter. And what do I mean by that? I mean, I don't do a set of 20, a set of 15, a set of 10, a set of 8, a set of 6, 6, 6, like that. I don't do that, okay? If I'm going to warm up like powerlifters do, as the weight increases on the warm-up, the reps never go above 5. I keep them around 5 reps, maybe 3 to 5 reps of everything all the way through the warm-ups, just letting my joints and my muscles know what's coming, activating my nervous system, warming up my core temperature. So in the middle of winter, that might involve more sets of warm-ups. For all intents and purposes, I could do jumping jacks, mountain climbers, and push-ups. Okay? If that's your thing, go ahead and do that to warm up too. If you want to eliminate the semantics game, do that, but have your barbell ready to do squats and your bench presses later in the workout. Okay, I'm going to warm up on those 2. Why those 2 in particular? Because I want to warm up on the squats to get my entire body that's going to be used in my squatting movement, my deadlift movement, and even my bent over row movement, completely warmed up. Why do I warm up on the bench presses? To get my chest, my shoulders, my triceps, my elbows all fully warmed up. So I'm doing a complete warm up for my entire body right there between the 2 exercises. Okay? How many sets? As many as it takes for you to warm up. If it's the middle of the summer, you're in a hot garage, you're in a hot gym with no air conditioning, it might only be 1 light warm up set. Let's just call it a warm up. Okay? Now that you're past the warm-ups and you're ready to go, I'm going to give you repetition ranges to work within, and I'm going to tell you 1 good set of each of these exercises. These are big hit exercises. They're going to hit the major muscle groups in all your body, and they're going to keep things going and stimulate the large muscle masses as well as the little ones and stabilizers, and it's going to make a big hit to your hormonal system. Testosterone, growth hormone, all of this is going to be definitely stimulating in a positive manner, okay? So, my squats. I'm going to do squats, and I have my clients do this as well, between 8 to 12 repetitions. That is the range. Why do I choose 8 to 12 repetitions? I'll tell you what, in really, really good form, if I go up to 20 repetitions, me personally, I'm going to go a little aggressive. And the end of that set, I might have a weight on there that I probably should be doing 15 or 16 reps with. But because I say I'm going to do 20, I'm going to get under the bar and I'm going to do those last 3 reps and push the envelope right there. I'm going to try and have a good spotter there to keep an eye on me. I'm going to have my cage, but just because it's a nice reminder as you squat down, if you have somebody that's a trusted spotter, to have them tap you on the chest as you hit the bottom position or as you're coming up out of the squat, just to let you know that you're staying upright. A reminder, so you're not getting too crazy, not letting the form go down the toilet. So I'm going to squat an all-out set for between 8 and 12 repetitions to the point where I'm 1 rep shy of some ugly form. I don't want to do any grinders. Grinders are where you squat down with your back like this, and then on the way up, poof, like that. We don't do that. We don't do that on squats. We don't do that on deadlifts. Why? Because we want to have our backs in excellent shape. I'm speaking from experience on this one right here. Again, for those of you who don't know, I'm in my 50s. I've been around for a long time in the gyms. I've been training myself now for 30, I think it's 38 years. I keep telling you guys, I have to get an actual running count, do the math sometime soon, but about 38 years. And all that time, I purposely avoid doing grinders. And my back's in great shape. I've had x-rays on my back. I've had doctors say to me, I thought you lift weights. And I say, yeah, I do. And they go, how much do you lift? I tell them how much I can lift, especially on deadlifts. And that one freaks them out because they just anticipate I'm going to have age-related disc thinning, which I do not have. So I contend that if you use it, you won't lose it. Don't use it, you'll lose it. Or if you have bad form, you'll destroy those discs. It's a whole other video. I'll put a link down below for a fun video on what's really hurting your back. Okay, so that one, look down below. I'll link it up to that. It's a really fun video. Anyway, my squats, 8 to 12. Now, boom, I get my deadlift bar set up. I'm already warmed up from the squatting, from the bench pressing. I'm pretty ready to go. What am I going to do on those? I'm going to do 6 to 10 repetitions. Why 6 to 10? It's a repetition range that for me personally has worked really, really well over the years. You might be an 8 to 12 person on that movement as well. I have nothing against that. I'd be okay with 8 to 12. But 6 to 10 for myself and for clients over the years, I really see it as you have to maintain such great discipline on squats and on deadlifts. And most people think the deadlift is just an easier exercise to do because you're just lifting and lowering the weight. Well, I'm going to put a link down below for my Bulletproofing Your Back video on deadlifts, where I pretty much school you on how to do the form correctly. There's a lot more to it than just simply standing up and putting the weight down. Powerlifters, some of them will make it sound as simple as that, but there's a lot going there, a lot going on there. So because of that, you don't want to have to maintain your concentration for too long. So 6 to 10, 8 to 12, I'd be good with either one of those on the squat and the deadlift. Specifically. And each one of those, again, we avoid grinders, just to the point where the form is about to go trash. Okay? And of course, it goes without saying that if there's ever any kind of an issue, just drop the weight. Okay? Just don't be afraid of dropping it. And you're not going to make a fool out of yourself. Save your back for another day, if that were the case. If you misjudged the weights or something just didn't feel right. Okay? So now we're squats, deadlifts. My third exercise going into this, I'm going to the bench press. Now, for those of you that know, again, I did another video now that I think about it. This is all spur of the moment here. I'm thinking, wow, I did a video on shoulder destroyers, okay? And I included a certain way of doing bench presses as being a certain shoulder destroyer. Now, I'll link that one up too down below. This is interesting. I have a lot of links for you guys today to some other videos that I've done that pertain to this on how to use good form on that bench press. What repetition range am I using on the bench press? I'm using 6 to 10. Once again, 6 to 10 repetitions. Again, the large majority of people, men and women, respond the best to 6 to 10 repetitions on their bench presses and seem to progress over time and grow some muscle across the front and back of their bodies from those bench presses, thickening up those muscles. So I'm going to go with a set of 6 to 10. Notice, I'm not doing any warm-ups here at this point. I've already done that. And when I say 6 to 10, now that we're getting into the other exercises, the bench press, I'm going to have a spotter there. Why? I'm taking that one to failure, to where I cannot get the bar off of my chest. If I don't have a spotter, I'm going to use my power cage, my power rack. I'm going to set the pins just below where my bottom line is on my bench press. And I'm going to go to the point where the weight is no longer moving and just come on down with it and let it sit on the pins and pull myself out. So I'm going to failure on that one for sure, at least. Boom. Now I'm moving on to my bent over rows. My bent over rows, and I do mean classic, old school, golden era bodybuilding bent over barbell rows. Why? I think they're the best. That's it. When I was younger, now that I'm a little bit older, I can say definitively, I believe they hit the large muscle masses of the back, the biceps, the forearms, the rear delts, posterior chain, much better than the classic Dorian row that all of you all know, with that under grip, with your back at about 70 degrees to the ground, or even an over grip, but having your back so high up at about 70 degrees to the ground, that not quite as effective at hitting the back. Okay, so bent over, traditional, golden era barbell rows. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do those for a nice clean set of 8 to 12. Now, for all of y'all out there who say, John, I bent over rows, I haven't done them since I was 25, and they hurt you one time way back. Let me tell you something. If your hamstrings are loose enough, spend some time stretching those hamstrings and making them looser before you even go into bent over rows. And I don't mean just before you do them. I'm talking about take several weeks to break open those hamstrings. Do dumbbell rows in the meanwhile, or do some other kind of do the Dorian row where you don't go as far over until you have looser hamstrings. And you can actually get over and not strain your lower back from having hamstrings that are too tight. That's the culprit on the bent over row. Okay, making your hamstrings really loose to be able to handle that bent over row is going to help you tremendously. It's going to be the difference maker for you to be able to do them. And you do clean repetitions. I'll put another video down below on my bent over rows so you could see the kind of form that I use and why I use it. And if anything, stay at the top end of that 8 to 12 repetition range. Stick with 12s. And what do you do on the bent over row? What would I do on the bent over row? What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the point of failure. What is failure? When I'm pulling that bar and I'm hitting my upper abdomen or lower abdomen with that barbell on every single rep, or my lifting belt, because I do wear my 4-inch, 10 millimeter Forever Lever lifting belt. So I'll put a link down below for that, for the exact belt that I use, okay? That's what I do. I'll either hit the belt or I'll hit my abdomen, and I go ahead and I hit that thing up until the end of the set. When all of a sudden I'm not able to hit it, I know the set is almost done. I might miss it by ½ inch. Then I'm going 2 more reps, about halfway up, maintaining the great form with my lower back in place. I'm not going to let my lower back get so fatigued that I'm going to be rounding and potentially injuring my lower back. I'm not going to hitch the weight up super fast, thus putting too much stress on my lower back, and neither should you. Okay? Now we're going to move on to our last exercise, the 5th exercise in our 5-exercise Get Big routine, and that would be overhead presses with that barbell, standing barbell overhead press. What do I like about that exercise? Number 1, it's a core movement. What? John, what? What'd you say, John? Core movement? Yes. Anything that you use your upper and your lower body at the same time. You're using your lower body for stabilization, using your upper body for the movement, and a whole bunch of upper body muscles for stabilization. Your core, the middle part of your body, acts as a stabilizer. The primary function of your core is stabilization. So I really like that, number 1. Number 2, my shoulders, my rotator cuffs, my upper back muscles and traps, the entire complex of my shoulder, the posterior delt, the medial head, the anterior head, they all work to a degree on those overhead presses. And then certain parts of my back and my abdomen are working very hard as well, and upper chest, clavicular pec. I'm going to go down just to chin level and then press that thing back on up. How many repetitions? We're back to the 6 to 10 repetition range. Why? It works best on the presses, I think. Now, before all of you all go ahead and say, John, those presses, they're not supposed to be good for your shoulders. Look, I don't go all the way up when I do those presses. I call them a 3/5 movement. From my chin, I press the bar up, and I take it to a point just shy of complete lockout at the top. If you do that and have that as a practice, you will not destroy your rotator cuffs unless there's already a predisposed injury in there or a micro injury that you already have. But to me, they're very safe. I've done them for decades. I've had clients do them for decades. No issues as long as we don't lock out at the top, right? So that's pretty much it. My 5 exercise routine. I'm going to do that routine about every 5 or 6 days, depending on how fatigued I am. If I'm a little too sore, I give my body a full chance to recover from the workout and then to overcompensate. Keep in mind, recovery precedes growth. You have to recover from a workout and then you grow. If you do it and allow it to happen, each time you come back to that workout, you should be a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger. And with a caloric surplus, I don't mean 500 to 1,500 extra calories per day or 3,500 calories extra per day. Somebody did that wrong years ago, back in the old, Weider magazines, talking about how you need an extra 3,500 calories a day. That's a pound of body fat. That's not a pound of muscle. A pound of muscle only has 600 calories in it. I bet a bunch of you haven't heard that before. So what am I going to do? Well, if I can stimulate the growth of a pound of muscle in a week, let's say, I'm just randomly choosing a week, then I want to have a surplus of 600 calories on my week. That's only 100 calories extra per day. Follow? So for those of you who are into the big, dirty bulking thing, it's quite unnecessary, and especially if you're natural. If you're natural, then you're going to have to be a little bit more conservative with your caloric increases to be in a surplus. So I'm going to go with a 100 to 200 calorie surplus. Over time, some of that may be stored as body fat, but keep in mind, if you're storing 100 of those 200 calories extra that you're eating per day in surplus, 100 will go to muscle. So that means in a week, you'll grow a pound of muscle. But the other 100 is going to go to stored body fat, right? I just told you 3,500 calories and 1 pound of body fat. So what does that extra 600 calories, 200, 1,400 calories a week. So 700 goes to the muscle and about 800 goes to body fat. So the other 800, how much body fat will you gain out of those 800 calories? Wow, that's a fourth of a pound, maybe just under a quarter of a pound of fat, but you've put on a pound of muscle. Wow, not a bad trade-off. So anyway, I hope you're getting some out of these videos that I'm doing right here. If you are, then right now you're going to see pop up next to my head in 3, 2, 1. Yep, there it is. That disc is the subscribe button for my channel. Will you please give that thing a tap before you leave? And YouTube will let you know when I have new videos popping up. Down below and off to your left, you're going to see a thumbs up button over there. That lets the video algorithm of YouTube know that you're liking my videos and you just want them to be promoted a little bit more. I appreciate that one myself as well. I'll see you soon. Thank you.